I've always been fascinated by the idea of making Scratch games that push the boundaries of my abilities, and also the boundaries of what Scratch is capable of, whilst also wanting to do something no one has really done before. With that in mind, Super Mario Odyssey was a no-brainer. Sure, there's plenty of Mario platformers on Scratch, but would it be possible to recreate the capture mechanic, as well as the cap throws and dives? Before we find out, I think it's important we look at my previous attempt at making Super Mario Odyssey 2D on Scratch. Not long after Super Mario Odyssey released in 2017, I began work on making it into a Scratch project, inspired particularly by this sprite sheet I found online. It was perfect for what I wanted to achieve, and bam, a working demo. But I ran into a number of issues. For one, by using the Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga assets, I had severely limited myself in what I could do design-wise, as frankly, I am no expert with creating and editing pixel art, and the Superstar Saga assets just have too much detail for me to handle. Another problem I ran into was simply setting too high of a bar for myself. In my mind, I was thinking I'd make 8 kingdoms with hundreds of moons to collect. That combined with using limiting assets was just absolutely paralysing. So much so that I abandoned the project altogether. Until... After that previous attempt, as well as some other minor projects, in spring of 2023, I decided to give making Super Mario Odyssey 2D on Scratch another go, but this time with a fresh perspective. I'd use 8-bit Mario assets because that's simple enough for me to create and edit, and also I was going to set myself a much more reasonable bar. 1 kingdom with a handful of moons to collect, and maybe like 1 or 2 enemies Mario can capture. Now that seems like a much more reasonable goal, doesn't it? With that in mind, I officially began work on Super Mario Odyssey 2D on Scratch. The first thing I did was design the first kingdom. I initially tried building it like a Mario Maker level, but I had trouble getting a sense of scale. So instead, I simply drew a rough sketch of what I wanted in Microsoft Paint, and ended up with what was essentially concept art for my first Mario Odyssey 2D kingdom. The idea was for it to essentially be the Cascade Kingdom, but in retrospect, I think it's more fitting to give it the unique name of the Retro Kingdom, as other than the music, it really doesn't share much in common with the Cascade Kingdom at all. The next step was to make this drawing real, converting it from a simple sketch into a Mario level. And boom, look at it. It's beautiful, if I do say so myself. The Retro Kingdom was here. I had a lot of fun designing it. Even the smaller things like Goombette and choosing a design for her hat. We'll see more of her later. Next, it was time to put this level into Scratch. Huh? Where's the level? Oh, that's right. Before fully implementing the level, I first focused on getting Mario working, as well as the overall physics. It was good fun, recreating Mario's hat throw and dive. I just had to get the hat bounce in there, as while it isn't as important as simply being able to throw Cappy to capture an enemy, the hat bounce into another dive just feels so iconic to Super Mario Odyssey that I had to put it in there. Once the physics were how I wanted them, the Retro Kingdom was added. It felt fun to run around and dive all over the place, but next, it was time to implement what was perhaps the most important feature of this game. This really was the make or break challenge for me, because if I couldn't pull this off, I for sure would not have been continuing this project, as the capture mechanic basically represents Super Mario Odyssey as a whole. Without it, I'm just making Super Mario Bros. But with diving, I guess. So the pressure was on, as this was going to be a very difficult feature to implement, and not only that, the first enemy I chose was perhaps the most difficult I could have gone with, being... the Goomba. Yes, the Goomba. You might be thinking, eh? A Goomba? How is that the most difficult capture to implement? He literally just walks and jumps. Well, here is why. Yeah, on the face of it, that might look simple, but knowing Scratch's limitations with things like clones and how they interact with each other, I had absolutely no idea how I was going to recreate this. Do I just somehow tell the Goomba to be below Mario and just have Mario hover at that height above it? No, this will not work at all. I had to think of something simpler, and suddenly it hit me. And the solution I came up with truly was simple, and became the basis for how enemies work in the game in general. See, instead of all that mess about trying to make the Goomba behave how I want it to, which would have been near impossible, I instead made it so that when you land on the Goomba, as a Goomba, the game deletes this Goomba, and on the same frame, switches your capture state from 1 Goomba tall to 2 Goombas tall, and then moves your position, so this is one object. Boom! Man, I felt so smart. And this method is also how regular Goomba stacks work in my game. They are one entity. You step on one, it becomes a smaller entity. If that all seems like such an obvious solution, fair enough, but I honestly felt like a genius when I came up with this workaround, and it works so well. And so, after a lot of hard work, the first capture was implemented, along with the ability to exit capture, which just turns Mario back into, well, Mario, while spawning a copy of whatever he captured next to him. So now, with a working Mario, Kingdom, and enemies, Super Mario Odyssey 2D was really coming together, but it was time to add Super Mario Odyssey's signature collectibles. These were fun to implement. Pretty simple. Have them stationary on the map, touch them to trigger a little animation and accompanying jingle. I kept things simple and added 4 moons, 3 of which were simple, oh there's a moon, collect it kind of moons. But the 4th moon was more unique, a Goombette moon. Goombette appeared in Super Mario Odyssey and would give you a moon if you went up to her as a Goomba, or if she was on a high ledge, a Goomba stack. I had to recreate this, and that I did. Wonderful. Speaking of the moon collecting's little jingle, by the way, it's time to talk about... Sound effects were pretty straightforward. I just added NES Super Mario Bros. Sound effects, while getting a little creative with things like the noises Cappy makes. The music is what I want to talk about in particular. Although an 8-bit style Cascade Kingdom theme already exists within Super Mario Odyssey, I also wanted an underground version of it for when Mario's in the underground section of the kingdom. And so, my good friend Nikolai volunteered to create not only the underground version, but also his own take on the regular 8-bit version too. That made it a lot easier to have the two themes seamlessly switch between one and the other, when entering or exiting the underground. He did an amazing job. Take a listen. A link to his channel with the full renditions is in the description. And with that, the game was basically done. I added a title screen, UI, death sequence, and even found the time to add the Koopa Trooper as an enemy and capture. It seemed fitting, given the kingdom's retro theming. I think it's time I showed you all the finished project. But before I do, feel free to pause the video and give the game a go for yourself with the link in the description. No download required or anything, it's just played in your web browser. Okay, let's have a run through of Super Mario Odyssey 2D on Scratch. Okay, here we go. So we start off at the start of the level, as you might expect. Come over here and you'll see Goombette, obviously requiring Goombas. And she, I do like, yeah, she runs away if you're just Mario. Very much like in the actual game. We'll head over here and, yep, you can capture a Goomba if you want. Actually, here is where I can show off the transitioning of the music. So you come to here where the underground entrance is. Put the music playing and... yeah, you see that? Very nice. Platform across these and we can get to our first moon. Very nice. Right. Now we can head over to the right and up to the top. Platform over these Goombas, as we know we'll need those later. Oh yeah, we'll take these 3 with us. Oops. Took damage there. Yeah, as much as fun as the Koopa Trooper is, it's not it's definitely not required for any moons or anything like that. Oh, we need one more Goomba, I think, to reach Goombette. There we go. That should be just tall enough to be eye to eye with her. There we go. Right. Just one more moon to get, and this one is probably the hardest to find. Or at least the hardest to get. Oh, look at that, full stack. Right, but unfortunately to do this, we need a shorter stack than this. Oh no! Actually, will I be able to do this? Oh, there we go. Just get it shorter, as we'll need you. Come on, Mr. Goomba. Get to have the transition again. Very nice. Over the platforms as a Goomba, which is a harder challenge. Especially if you don't time your jumps properly. Here we are. And just under this little Goomba high tunnel. To grab our last moon. And I guess we can also listen to the music transition leaving the underground as well. Lovely. So there you have it, Super Mario Odyssey 2D on Scratch. I really loved making this project. From adding the captures to adding the moons, every single step I took in this project felt so rewarding, and nothing was more rewarding than finishing the project. Something I really hadn't done before when it came to my Scratch project, as I had always set the goalpost way too high. Please let me know your thoughts on my project in the comments, and feel free to send me a suggestion of what you'd like to see next, whether that be for my Mario Odyssey project, or perhaps an idea for a different game or franchise you'd like me to make a Scratch project based around in the future. Speaking of what's next, I can confirm that Super Mario Odyssey 2D version 2 is in the works. Here is a very small peek at what's to come. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching until the end. I'm very passionate about my Scratch project, so making videos about them just made too much sense. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this one in the future. I love you all, goodbye.